Okay, so the coconut oil has been melted, and then I stick it in my freezer to cool it down. Hey, welcome to Daisy King Farm. Today I'm going to show you how I make my homemade coconut oil soap. I only use coconut oil and add my essential oils as the smell. I don't use fragrances or anything like that. So it's pretty simple. So I'm going to show you the first step here is I'm going to measure out my coconut oil according to the recipe that I use. I super fat my coconut oil because it is a drying oil, and if you super fat, in other words, you add more coconut oil to the recipe than the lye can convert into soap, then that will act as your moisturizer. So I just have a little digital scale here. I'm going to turn it on. Oh wait, I've got to set my bowl on here first. Turn it on, and that way we start with 0. And then I'm just going to start scooping out my coconut oil into the bowl until I get to the right amount of ounces that I use for my recipe. Okay, so this should be right around what I need for my recipe, and then I'm going to take it and melt this on the stove. Okay, the next step is to measure out your water, which I've done so right here, and check and make sure that it's in a container that is safe for lye. You just need to look and see what kind of plastic you have, or stainless steel bowl or something like that. You have to use certain types. Okay, so now I'm going to measure out the lye, and I use, you can get it at your hardware stores. It has to say 100% lye, but that's all it is. So now I'm going to just, again, I have my container. I'm going to turn on my scale. I'm going to have to use my muscles. These are on there tight, and obviously for good reasons. This is a very potent chemical. That's why I have my gloves on, long gloves, and eye protection, and a mask. I also have a window open so that we can let the fumes out. So I'm going to go ahead and start pouring. You don't want to stand directly over it. It's a powder form, the kind that I use. And then we're going to mix it with water here in just a second. Okay, now that I have my water measured and my lye measured, this is very important. You have to do it in this process. You have to pour your lye into your water. Do not pour the water into the lye. It can blow up on you. It has to be done this way. And so what I always do is I get down low so that the fumes are not coming up in my face, and you just start slowly pouring in, and with a stainless spoon I start mixing it very carefully. Don't want any splatters. If it gets on your skin, it will burn. Once all of it is in there, you want to continue to mix it. Just make sure everything goes down in there until it's more clear. Right now it's really milky. Just keep stirring. And you're going to start seeing steam rise. That's because the chemical is reacting and it's turning into lye, which gets very hot. It gets close to 300 degrees. That's why you have to be careful. You don't want to get this on your skin. You don't want to breathe it. If you do, you can get apple cider vinegar and pour over wherever it's gotten on your skin, and it'll help the burn. So we're just gonna keep mixing this until it's not gonna be completely clear, but it's a whole lot more clear than it is right now. So the coconut oil has been melted, and then I stick it in my freezer to cool it down. You want the lye and the coconut oil to be within 10 degrees of each other. So the lye cools down faster than the coconut oil, so that's why I stick it in the freezer for a few minutes, so that they'll be within 10 degrees of each other at the same time. So everything is ready. Again, all your protection, your eyes, your mask, your gloves, and apron. You're gonna mix this. Again, I get down lower than so the fumes don't go, and you're gonna pour the lye into your coconut oil. Just mix it a little, and then just put that out of the way. Okay. Now you're ready to mix using a submersible blender stick. You'll put this down in there, and then you'll turn it on. I'm not gonna do this for very long, but you'll turn it on, and you're gonna blend it up until it gets about the consistency of pudding. Depending on the oil that you used and the recipe that you have, it'll set up at different times. So mine just takes about 10 or 15 minutes, and I'll go ahead and do that, and then when we come back we'll be ready to put in the essential oil and pour into the mold. Okay, so I've been mixing this for a few minutes, and it's getting a little bit thick. So now it's time to slowly add your essential oil, and I just add it a little at a time and mix it up, and then it'll be about ready for it to go in the mold. See, it's getting about like pudding now. Once you start putting the essential oil in, depending on which oil, it'll set up at a different rate as well. So just be careful when you first start doing this, so you know how it's going to set up. This is lavender, by the way. And then you can just, go back and forth, just stirring or turning it on until you get it all blended. You want to get the process done before it gets too thick, because then it's when you put it in the mold, you're not going to be able to work with it to create designs and things like that on the top of the soap. Careful and make sure you don't splatter it all over the place. Alright, it's looking more like pudding. So we're going to pour it into our mold. I usually use wax paper to line it. That'll help you get it out of the mold easier. So you just start pouring it in. I use like a little rubber spatula to scrape out the bowl, and make sure you get every little bit, because your soap is formulated pretty precise. You want to make sure everything is measured properly or it will not set up correctly. Alright, so then I usually just kind of try to move it in all the corners like this. Spread it out a little bit as much as you can, evenly. And then a little trick I do is I just start kind of banging it like this and shaking it in the mold, and it'll even itself out pretty much. Like that. So if you want to do any designs in your soap, I use like a flat spoon to get a better, get it smoother, I guess. And then I'm going to go back in and put my design. So here we are, we're pretty smooth. Sometimes you may just want to leave it like this. That's okay too. And then I get, this is just a metal skewer that you can, you know, use for cooking, but I got one just to draw my designs in. You can just do little swirlies like this. Or you can do like figure eights. Like this. Or if you just want to go back and forth like this. It's whatever you want to do. So I'm going to smooth this back out and get my design put in, and then it'll be ready for the dividers. Don't want to go down too far, because if you do, it'll put air bubbles in your soap. Alright, and the last thing I do is I kind of just go around the edges, make sure all the gaps are filled in and there's no air pockets. So this mold that I have has its own dividers, which makes it real nice for getting even bars. So you just lay it down carefully on top, like this. Make sure it's good and clean, there's no fuzz or anything on it. And before you push it all the way down, make sure every side is in the mold, and then you just start pushing down a little bit at a time, like this. I'm just making sure that there's no air pockets where I just put the dividers. So that's pretty much it for the soap. I'm going to, I lay a cardboard over the top, and then I put towels on top of that, and that keeps the heat from escaping too quickly, and so it allows the soap to cool down at a very slow pace, and that just keeps it from gelling up in the center. So it'll sit like that for overnight. And then my soap, the recipe that I do, the soap is ready. It's actually turned into soap within 24 hours. So in other words, the lye has converted into soap. It's no longer lye, and you can use it after 24 hours. So the coconut oil sets up really hard, and then it has turned into soap. So I'll leave it on the rack for 24 hours, and then I'll start pulling the sides off of my mold, and then I let them dry on a rack for a couple days, and then it's ready. So that's pretty much the process. Again, go to Soap Calc, just Google that, and you can put in all your ingredients, and it'll figure up everything for you there. So thanks for watching.